So, welcome to International Competitiveness. In this video, we're going to look at the definition and the factors that determine international competitiveness. So first of all, how do we measure it? And a key measure is relative unit labour costs. And unit labour costs are basically the cost of making something. In other words, how much labour in revenue terms does it take to produce a unit of output, a good or a service. So it's the total labour cost divided by the output will give you the unit labour cost. Relative export prices are a key measure, so that's the average export price compared, say, of the UK, compared to our main competitor countries. What is their average export price? And another measure is relative export prices compared to import prices. So again, if we look at the UK, over time, we might look at what the average export price is compared to the average import price, and that ratio illustrates international competitiveness. Obviously, you want low unit labour costs, and you want low relative export prices compared to import prices or compared to the export prices of other countries, our main competitors. Okay, so that's what we call price competition. But also, maybe of equal importance, especially in highly competitive markets, are non-price factors. So we could call this non-price competition, and key areas might be how good is the product design, what is the perceived quality of the product like, how reliable the product is, what the after-sales service is like, indeed marketing, how strong is the brand. So for some brands, maybe some German cars such as Mercedes or Porsche or BMW, people perceive them to be of excellent design, high quality, great reliability, and a very strong brand. And therefore, they're prepared to pay more for them. And indeed, the price elasticity demand is therefore more inelastic, and they can sell more at a higher price. So this is price competition and non-price competition, often worth commenting on both. Now, what factors determine international competitiveness for a country? Well, first of all, you've got your relative rates of inflation. If you have a relatively higher rate of inflation compared to your main competitors, which of course Britain did in the 1970s, then gradually over time you're going to become less competitive. You know, say our rate of inflation in the UK was 10%, and say the German rate is 5%. Over time, our export prices are going to go up more than the German export prices, and will become less price competitive over time. So the 70s were a good case in point where British inflation was relatively high compared to our main competitors. However, that may be offset by currency appreciation. So a second factor is exchange rates. Okay? If you have a devaluation or depreciation of the exchange rate, like that has occurred for the pound in 2008 and 2009, or in 2016 when the UK voted for Brexit, the pound fell about 20% relative to the dollar and 12% relative to the euro, our main competitors. This boosted our price competitiveness because exports become cheaper and therefore more price competitive, even with the same unit labour costs and the same level of productivity. However, of course, if you have a depreciation or devaluation, the flip side is that imports go up in price. And if you use imports as an important input into your manufacturing process or service, then that will negate the advantage you've had from the depreciation in the exchange rate of the cheaper exports. The productivity is a key factor, so we'll underline that more. Your relative productivity, labour productivity, which is output per person, is a key indicator of your international competitiveness. So output per person If you're able to increase productivity by utilising greater technology, such as robots in car factories, then you can significantly lower unit labour costs and thereby increase international competitiveness. And lastly but not least, of course, the key long-term factor is education and skills. If you're able to boost human capital, then you're likely to boost output per person and therefore produce more output for the same labour input, of course, so unit labour costs will lower. Those are sort of, apart from education skills, these are, especially the inflation and exchange rates, these are sort of short-run factors. Now, if we look at how governments might actually improve price competitiveness, when we're really talking about different types of supply-side policies, and remember, the main drawback of supply-side policies is they take a long time to implement. They're long-term, they have a significant time lag. So look up supply-side policies which aim to reduce business costs and increase productivity by working at the microeconomic level. But here's just a few key ones that you could mention if we're talking about improving international competitiveness. First of all, as we've already mentioned, education and training in skills to increase output per person. Labour market flexibility means that you can employ labour, maybe at cheaper rates of pay, and that will boost your unit labour costs, such as reducing trade union power and making it easier to hire and fire. Another area is if you have incentives, such as tax incentives, to encourage research, development and investment. This encourages firms to develop innovative techniques which will lower labour costs as a proportion of your output and therefore boost unit labour costs, and boost price competitiveness. Infrastructure, again, if you increase connectivity in the economy, it reduces transport costs, for example, and that will lead to greater efficiency for firms, and it should lead to an improvement in price competitiveness. Reduced regulation. So we have regulations for health and safety, for human welfare, for environmental protection, for instance, and also lots of product design, so that products come up to a certain unified standard. Well, if we reduce these regulations, and so firms can operate more efficiently, then they will be able to increase their productivity and therefore boost international price competitiveness. So that's one reason for reducing the level of regulation in a country like the UK, and so we can compete more easily with the Europeans, other Europeans I should say, or with the USA, our main competitors. And again, immigration allows you not only to have relatively cheaper labour coming in at a low skill level, which will obviously reduce unit labour costs, but also it allows firms to fill skills gaps where they can't recruit particular skill sets, such as people working in financial services or chemistry research, that type of thing. Lower non-wage costs, this is quite important. So for a lot of employers, non-wage costs can be quite significant, such as national insurance contributions and pension contributions. If you reduce those, then you reduce your wage costs, and therefore you're reducing your unit labour costs and increasing efficiency and therefore your international price competitiveness. So it's an important area and links with supply side policies, so I hope that's useful. Thank you very much.